Alright, good evening everyone. This is Senior Forecaster Cameron back here again, and I'm here to go over what you guys see on your screen here. Hurricane Dorian here, guys, sitting at around 105 miles per hour. He is now a Category 2 hurricane here, guys. He is strengthening at a very, very fast rate. For such a disorganized hurricane, as you can clearly tell, you still have a little bit of shear in play, you still have some dry air, but good. Just look, it's actually got an eye developing here, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a little better view of what he actually looks like from a zoomed out proportion. So just bear with me for just a second here. It'll be loading up on the screen here just a little bit, but you can clearly tell on where he is right now. And I'm gonna go ahead and go back here so you guys can see what I'm talking about, and just look. There's your eye wall. There's your eye wall right there, sitting around 105 miles per hour. He has slowed down, so he's going to be moving towards the west at a very slow rate here, guys. So that could lead to rapid intensification with this system here. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, because the latest update is further south, and it's also now including the Florida Keys. So this is where it's starting to get a little concerning now for the folks in the Gulf of Mexico, even for the folks along the Gulf Coast here. So I'm going to go ahead and break that down for you guys in just a little bit. But there's your system in here, sitting around 105 miles per hour. I'm going to go ahead and read to you guys the latest report here. So there's the latest report from the National Hurricane Center as of 11 o'clock. The 11 o'clock update is sitting around 105 miles per hour. Movement is northwest at 12 miles per hour. So he has slowed down just a little bit here. Over the next couple of days, he is going to move off towards northwest. But tomorrow evening and into early Saturday morning, he is going to slow down, and he's going to move towards the west. Where this happens is going to be the question between, does he go towards the central Florida or northeastern Florida, or does he make a landfall in southern Florida, or does he make a landfall, or does he skip Florida completely and go on to the Gulf of Mexico? Because that is now a possibility here. With the latest of the National Hurricanes cone, which is still a cone of uncertainty here. I want to go ahead and throw that out there. The cone of uncertainty is still in play, but it is not as big as it once was. So the cone of uncertainty lies from it going in northern Florida now. So they are basically canceling out any potential of this thing going to the Carolinas. So as of now, you can go ahead and put an X mark on this. And they're also canceling any possibility of this thing impacting Cuba. So we're going to put an X mark in here. So the middle ground puts it in south central Florida, into the Gulf, and possibly making a landfall in the Florida Panhandle, or off the coast of Alabama here. So it's a wait and see here, or actually making a landfall in Florida and then going up into the southeast here. So there's a lot of uncertainties here. I'm going to break it down for you guys just a little bit, but there's a lot of uncertainties with this track right now. So please pay attention to trusted sources here, guys. So because there's going to be a lot of maps out within the next 24 to 48 hours here, suggesting this, suggesting that. And although it is looking increasingly likely that a major hurricane could impact Florida, still make sure you listen to your officials here, guys. Make sure you have a hurricane plan in action. If you know anyone in Florida, tell them to have a hurricane plan in action, and also tell them to be ready to evacuate at any given time. The earlier you can get out, the better, guys, because Labor Day weekend is coming up. There's going to be a lot of people traveling, so this is actually one of the worst times to have a hurricane is around the Labor Day holiday here, guys. But anyways, as I was saying before, make sure to have a hurricane plan in action. Make sure they're ready to evacuate here, guys. So for our folks here in Arkansas, if this thing is expected to be a Category 4, Category 5 at landfall, let's welcome people from Florida. Like I said before, bring some. If you have family, friends down in Florida, even along the southeastern coastline, because I see it as from southeastern Louisiana up to Georgia, and it's looking less and less certain that it's going to impact the Carolinas. But I'm going to keep a question mark up here just to be on the safe side, in case of weakness in the trough does put the system up and misses Florida completely. So I'm going to put a question mark up there. But right now, the most likeliest track it takes into Florida and possibly goes on to the Gulf. And after the Gulf, it becomes extremely uncertain on what happens with this system in here. Does it make it into the southeast? Does it continuously go west? There's a lot of things that need to be worked out here. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered over the next 24 to 48 hours with this system in here. But I want to note that Dorian is starting to broaden out his wind field. You know, it was very compact at first, but now the wind field is starting to broaden out just a little more. The hurricane force winds are not very, very wide. I say easily about probably 20-25 miles away from the center. So the hurricane winds are not excessively wide, but the tropical storm winds have broadened out just a little bit since the last update. So nice little force staying around 105 miles per hour. There's the current track here. I want to note here, with this system here, is that it is expected to become a Category 4 hurricane here, guys. This is latest from the National Hurricane Center. So, advisory number 23. Here we are on Monday here. So, winds around 140 miles per hour, wind gusts up to 165 miles per hour here, guys. So, this almost goes back almost like Katrina type strength with this, guys. So we'll have to keep an eye on this, and I'm going to pray for you guys, and I want you guys to keep Florida in your prayers, that this thing, you know, goes out to sea, weakens before it gets to Florida, because if we're to impact Florida with this amount of strength, there's going to be a lot of damage. There's going to be a lot of devastation down there. So you need to be keeping an eye on our updates here at Arkansas Weather Watchers, guys. There's a lot of trusted sources out there. Our good friend Paul, the weather guru, he's a great source for tropical weather for you guys. So like I said before, just keep that in mind. Please listen to trusted sources, guys. The earlier you can evacuate from the system, the better. I do realize that the cone is still relatively large, but it is. I'm going to show you from the last update. Last update was well up here. There's your update from advisory number 23. It's further south, cone's still big, but it's further south, and it now has the Florida Keys in the track now. So after 48 hours, whatever happens from there is a big question mark here, guys. So that's what we've got with the system at this current time here. I am going to show you guys the upper level pattern. Here's the upper level pattern with the system here, and I want you guys to pay attention to something real fast. I'm going to stop it just for a second. Alright, here's your western ridge. Okay, there's your trough that's coming down. Sorry about that. There's your trough that's in the northeast right now. There's your Bermuda High. Okay, this is what is steering Dorian right now. And there's also an upper level low that's centered just to the southwest of Dorian. So this is kind of pinwheeling Dorian from keeping this thing from really going into the Gulf of Mexico here. Because I'm gonna tell you, if the upper level low was not there, this would try to make a play to go into the Gulf, and it still could. Because what's going to end up happening over the next couple of days is that this low is going to go towards the west. Dorian's going to follow this high pressure ridge up here as it begins to build back towards the west. And what's also going to happen is Dorian is going to slow down. The moment he slows down and this high pressure ridge were to take control, what could happen is that the high pressure ridge could center over the southeast and keep Dorian towards the south and make a track somewhat like that. So that's also one scenario here. One more scenario is that the ridge takes forever to really build in, and Dorian could take a track somewhat like this. This is why I'm saying the Carolinas are not out of the woods as of yet. I know you guys are out of the cone right now, but I want to keep that little option in play, because if this ridge takes forever to get back towards the west, this will more than likely get steered away from Florida, which would be the best case scenario for Florida, but you will put a landfall in the Carolinas here, guys. So that's also another possibility. And one more possibility is that high pressure ridge takes over, but there's a weakness. There could be a weakness along that ridge that could make Dorian go into Florida and make a hard north turn and then get out into the northeast or out to sea from there. So there's a lot of uncertainties with this. The high pressure ridge over here in the west is going to play a vital role, because it just doesn't build in as much. What could end up happening is that This could make this thing go even further west. Could put Louisiana in harm's way. Could put Mississippi, Alabama. So for anyone that lives along the Gulf Coast, Florida coastline, or even the Southeast needs to pay attention to what happens with Dorian, guys, because what overall happens with Dorian will be the overall question, or whatever happens with the overall pattern, will be the ultimate question between does Dorian make a Florida landfall, a Southeast landfall, or does he completely miss Florida? And I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys now, that would be the worst case scenario, is that it completely skips Florida, completely gives Florida a complete miss and goes towards the Gulf of Mexico here. That happens, you are likely to see a Category 4, Category 5 hurricane in the Gulf, and you put the Gulf Coast in major threat of a significant landfall with this storm here, guys. So that is the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is this. That's the best case scenario, is that it completely misses Florida, completely misses the Southeast, and goes out to sea. The only way that happens is that this high pressure ridge stays right here, or it's slow to build in, and this trough completely picks up Dorian and takes it out towards the northeast. So there's your best case. There's your worst case, guys. So the middle ground with that takes it into Florida here, guys. So as said before, we will be here all weekend long and throughout the duration of the system to give you guys updates. If you know anyone in Florida, give them a heads up with this. Tell them they need to have a hurricane plan in action. Also tell them that they should be ready to evacuate at any given time. We are currently making plans to send a team down to intercept this hurricane, guys. So stay tuned to our Chase page. Go like our Chase page. Arkansas Weather Watcher Storm Intercept Team. We are attempting to have a team down there to intercept this storm and give you guys footage with the storm at landfall here. But we're still trying to wait and see what all is going to happen with the system, because there's a big question mark of what happens with the system at this current time here, guys. So there's that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the tracks here. And this is what I was talking about with the system here. So just give me one more second here. I'm going to move my screen up for you guys. There's your tracks here. And this is where it becomes extremely uncertain, because once you get past the 48-hour time frame, it completely goes everywhere here, guys. So there's 48 hours. All right. After that, you can basically put a big question mark about what happens with this system. Does it go out to sea? Like I said before, there is guidance. There is some guidance that completely misses the southeastern coastline and completely kicks this thing out to sea. That is a possibility. That's the reason why I'm telling you guys to be sure you listen to trusted sources here, because although the majority does take it to Florida, there is guidance. There is some. It's not much, but there is some guidance that still takes it out to sea. Those are outliers, and those are also the best case scenarios in this situation. There is also guidance that takes it south of Florida. That happens, that is the worst case scenario. You bring a potentially catastrophic hurricane into the Gulf of Mexico here. And the Gulf of Mexico is sitting around 86, 87 degrees right now. So this is what I was talking about, that there's two different scenarios, two different plays that could be made with this system here. Is that it completely misses the southeast coastline, which is the best scenario ever, misses the U.S. mainland, goes out to sea. This trough digs down a little deeper than what current guidance is suggesting, sends Dorian off towards the north, and then a hard turn towards the northeast. There's some guidance that suggests the high pressure ridge really builds in across the southeast and sends Dorian into the Gulf, and then after that is a question mark. This is what I'm saying, even for our folks along the Florida panhandle, they need to be keeping an eye on this system here. And even for our folks downstream, further west, Louisiana, Texas, I think this is going to stay further up towards the east right now. But like I said before, beyond 48 hours, it is going to be the question mark of what overall happens with Hurricane Dorian here, guys. So anyone in the Florida panhandle, anyone in southeast Louisiana, Florida, Georgia coastline, North and South Carolina here, guys, even for our folks up here in the Northeast, keep an eye on this system here, guys, because what happens after 48 hours is going to be the overall determining factor of what happens with the system here. There's a lot of mesoscale features, like I talked about before, the southeast ridge, the western ridge, the trough in the northeast, the upper level ridge, the upper level low pressure here, because what's going to end up happening is if this thing goes out into the Gulf, you could see a secondary tropical system develop. It is very unlikely at this current time because Dorian will probably more than likely put shear in the Gulf, but you could see a secondary area of tropical development in the Gulf of Mexico. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered within the next 24 to 48 hours here, guys, because beyond 48 hours, it's anyone's guess at this current time here, guys. But as I said before, listen to your trusted your sources here, guys. Stick with us, Arkansas Weather Watchers. We will have your updates as soon as they come off the National Hurricane Center. I will have another blog out tomorrow night. I'll have a blog out Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night. I'm going to make this a daily thing as long as this poses a significant threat to the U.S. mainland here, guys. So just stay tuned. For us here in Arkansas Weather Watchers here. That's all I got for you guys this evening. I am going to show you guys guidance here. That's what I was going to do. I'm going to show you guys guidance here one more time before I get off of here. So here's the GFS. And I believe the GFS is at its 0Z run right now. I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, it's at its 0Z run. It's just now starting at 0Z run. So at this current time here, I'm going to take it back to the 12Z and show you guys what I'm talking about. Alright, so there's the system in here. Goes towards the Bahamas here, and it makes a landfall in central Florida. That is a possibility because what ends up happening is that high pressure ridge builds in just in time to keep this from going out to sea, but makes a landfall in Florida, but also leaves a weakness on the western end of that ridge, and it sends this system into Florida and into the southeast. It makes a hard north turn and then tries to redevelop it here, and this is what I'm talking about with the GFS. The GFS tries to redevelop it here and make what almost looks like Sandy from a couple of years ago, and it makes a landfall in the northeast here. So well beyond 240 hours out here, but that is also a possibility here. And one more thing to note, look what happens. You have a system here. It sends a pattern change here in Arkansas here. So whatever happens with Dorian is going to be affecting our weather downstream here, even for us here in Arkansas here, even if it doesn't even come near Arkansas. If it tracks up towards northeast and goes towards Canada, it could send a pattern change towards our way as we get towards the middle part of September here, guys. So there's a lot of things that need to be coming together within the next 48 hours. We will have your updates here at Arkansas Weather Watchers here over the next couple of days with the system here, guys. So thank you guys for tuning in to this thank you guys for tuning into this video blog here tonight, and y'all have a great rest of your Thursday night, and I'll catch you guys same time tomorrow evening.